morning, Mairi.
Hi.
How are you? How are you?
Good to meet you.
Are you well?
Very. It's a bit rainy in Madrid, but a bit freaky the weather in June.
Is it? What? Not sunny. We all imagine you're sitting around eating paella in the sun, but no.
We were yesterday, but what's happened to the world? I don't know. It's raining buckets and hailstoning in the city centre.
Oh, that's lovely, lovely. Well, that's almost English type conditions. We love that. Just so, Mairi Murphy, who has an amazing business called Native Experiences, and we've done a bit of work with you over the last few months, and it's a fascinating business. And I just wanted to have a quick chat with you for our listeners and our members and what have you to learn a little bit more about what you do. Mm-hmm. So, in a nutshell, you're better to explain it than I am. In a nutshell, literally, just tell me what Native Experiences does.
Well, it started off being Native English Experiences. I've had the business now 10 years, and it was all about sending Spanish and French students, high school students, to boarding schools in Britain and Ireland. But now it's Native Experiences because it's all about experiences in the country that you want to learn your language or just personal development for teens.
Right. Okay, brilliant. So, and what, as a busy mother of four, I know you've got 4 children, what led you to set the business up?
Kind of one of those surprises, really. I was always in international marketing, but that didn't really combine well with being a mum. So I gave my notice in when we landed in Spain. And then in between pregnancy, I did my TEFL courses and taught English, as most British, Irish people do out here in Spain and the continent. But I'm not into teaching myself. I love education, but I'm not into teaching. And so I started sending my kids abroad. Like I went abroad, my mum and dad were firm believers of sending us away when we were desiring to. And it's led to me being the youngest of 7 and not having a sibling back in Britain. So we're all spread around the world. We're all married to foreign people, and we have such fantastic, varied family reunions. And I wanted to give the same to my own kids. And after a few years of the Spanish and the French coming back, it's not the language acquisition that was fascinating. It was how they grew, how they matured, how they became autonomous. And that just got me into thinking, well, how about different markets? How about not just languages? How about just experiencing something away from home when they're young? It doesn't need to wait till Erasmus. You know,
it's a brilliant idea because traditionally everyone does a gap year, right? So they wait till they've done A-levels, they take a gap year off between school and university. No one's really sure whether they should go before university or get on with it and then do it after university. But this is an early gap year. This is sending them away quite young.
Yeah, I did my Erasmus and I decided not to do a gap year because I was a wee bit scared that I'd get into the whole working environment and not want to go to get a degree. So I decided to do an Erasmus and then carry on, do my degree. And I travelled while I was working. I got myself an international role and did it. It's sometimes luck of the draw. So if you don't have that opportunity later on, you never know if you're going to get it. Yeah. And Erasmus is great, but the next generation need to be a little bit of a step ahead, I think.
Yeah. But I can say from experience, so my middle son, Sam, has just come back from Madrid on his Erasmus year at Edinburgh University. And there's nothing like immersing yourself in the culture for a long period of time and having to speak the language to come back. Speak almost fluent, which is amazing. So is there an ideal age to do this? I know you know you're not promoting gap years as such. It's earlier than that. But what's the ideal age in your mind?
There isn't one, as far as I'm concerned. I've had 9-year-old Spanish kids super prepared to go to Britain for a year in boarding school, and I'm a bit dubious, but when I meet them and we have an interview and we have a chat, you see the determination and the maturity in that child. And then you've got other mollycoddled, maybe teenagers, big teenagers, that really are being forced out of the nest. And you know, it's not for everybody either, but there isn't an ideal age. It depends on your child. What is important is that you don't always know when you're able to send your child. So you have to look at the opportunities according to the academic structure of your country. So you being in England, you have to work out, well, I'm not going to be able to send them in year 11, for example, because that's an important GCSE year. So maybe you want to be doing it before or wait.
Yeah. And are the schools, because I can imagine the schools, they don't like their systems to be upset. Are they quite supportive of this with you? So let's say English children going abroad, are they quite supportive of that?
Yeah, because it creates an international dynamic for any school. So I think if you're with an open-minded school or a progressive school that sees the future in, if little Mickey goes for a year to Spain and he comes back, he's going to be more tolerant, he's going to be more sharing, he's going to be more autonomous. And of course, he's going to have that Spanish nailed down if he goes to a Spanish school. You don't need to go to a Spanish school. Of course, you could go to a school here in Spain.
Yeah. And so are you seeing an increase in numbers of parents doing this? I mean, I know you're based out in Madrid, but where are you seeing those numbers go up in terms of people contacting you? And are they interested in other territories other than Spain?
Yeah, for sure. So originally when I set up, I maybe had 5 clients a year. They were quite old. They were maybe 14, 15 upwards. And little by little, I'm on 30 clients a year, and they come from France, they come from Spain, they come from Ireland, they come from Britain, they're coming from Canada, and they're going in every single direction, and they're doing it from the age of 9. So yes, the parents now are bilingual themselves quite often, like myself and my husband. So our children are trilingual, and we're not thinking of English or Spanish, we're thinking of the next one. Yeah. And it's about the personal development, and it's about a different language, a third or a fourth language, maybe in some cases.
And if, what sort of, I'm just trying to think from a parent's perspective, what should a parent be thinking about? So let's say, I don't know, whatever their age it is, let's say it's pre-GCSE. What are the things that parents should be thinking about before considering this, or while they consider this sort of move?
Well, the first thing is your kid into it or not, because nobody should be forced to do a plan, an adventure of this nature if they're not keen. And that might mean a surprise, let's talk over the weekend and get them excited and then just go for it. Or it might mean 6 months of talking about it over the dinner table and maturing that thought in their head, depending on the child. Every parent knows their child and knows, I think, their limits. And some of them know that they need a shove, and some of them know that they can't. So really it's understanding when and what is good for your child, as in everything. Yeah. And then, well, the length of stay, and if they're going for an immersion experience, should it be a boarding school? Should it be a home environment? Do they need a cuddle? Do they need a routine? There's so many factors that they need to consider that, and of course the academic side of it. You don't want to remove from the routine if you're on an academic course. So if you don't want to take a full year out, well, that's okay. Just send them just for a term, and just get a little bit of wings, a little bit of air under your wings, and then maybe come back and do a second experience next year.
It's such a refreshing sort of idea. And do you place the children with families, or do they go to boarding schools or day schools or both? Or what's the sort of,
depends on where. So for example, I only work with host families in Canada, and they're amazing host families because they themselves are intercultural. They're different ethnics because it's such a new country. So you're going to be eating crazy foods in your home. You're going to be doing weird sports, winter sports, summer sports, right in there with nature. So that's a homestay. They do have boarding schools. I don't work them because it's just so expensive and I don't see the need. And as far as Spain and France and Switzerland and Australia and New Zealand are concerned, because those are the markets I deal with, anything can be done. High school immersion with a homestay or boarding school. Yeah.
And so I guess you have the relationships with the schools in all the families in all those territories. And then, so does someone who's interested in this contact you, and then you effectively find out a bit more about the child and then work out where's best for that child? Or
that's exactly how to, you can spend hours on the internet. You can work out, yourself, trawling through different sites. Websites are all fantastic and they're all groovy. I've been to nearly all of my schools that I work with, and I can, give the anecdotes and the inside information. But what's most important is the best match. Yeah. And it's the same with the British boarding schools. There are so many and they're all excellent, but which one's the best one for that child? And it's only a short stay, you want to nail it.
And the experience that you've got, I guess, knowing those schools, you're ideally placed to sort that out.
Well, I like to think so.
I hope so. And tell me, so I'm assuming COVID has not been friendly to you particularly, but also we had a really interesting webinar earlier this week with gap year companies.
I sent a couple of mums, but I missed it myself. Yeah.
Okay, so well, I'll send you the video because it's obviously top quality, but it was really interesting because they were all. What I got out of it as a parent was how collaborative that industry is. So when you say you can go onto websites and have a look around, but actually they all supported each other and they were all willing to go, actually, no, it's not one for me, but you should talk to so-and-so from this company because they can help you better in that territory. So, but what did come across me was in all this COVID fuss is the ability of these companies to look after children of whatever age who might be out in a country that need to get back. And is that something that you've had to work on?
To be honest, giving advice was my biggie. I remember back in March, last March, because I'm really the facilitator, I'm not the education provider. And that at the end of the day is the boarding school in France, or the boarding school in Ireland, or the homestay organism, or the school in Canada. But I'm the one that the parents look to for their advice. Mary, what am I going to do with my kid? And I remember that night, I think it was the 11th of March, I just woke up, I couldn't go to sleep. I went for a walk around the block because we could. Yeah. And I wrote an email at 2 a.m. to my parents, so 28 of them, just get your kid home.
Yeah.
No country knows what's happening. And 7 o'clock I woke up and I had already like 3 flights booked. Oh, thank God. We just couldn't sleep either. It was going round and round in our head. Nobody had a clear idea. None of the schools knew what was happening. You're a mum, you're a dad, you know what you want your kid next to you. And that was my advice. And I didn't have any kids very far away. So we all jumped on a short flight and got home and then did online learning.
It's totally, I mean, that comfort of having someone on the ground or close to people on the ground in those territories is so key, because the information from travel agents or insurers or whatever, or airlines, really, it was so confusing. Well, I think it's a really fascinating idea, because I in many ways wish I'd sent my 3 boys, wish I'd sent them all off for a year abroad, because whilst all our schools are amazing and wonderful, it's quite easy to get closeted in what you do for 5 years here and then 5 years there.
I'd say irrespective of your background, all of our children live in some kind of bubble. No, I'm not talking about COVID bubbles now. I'm talking about their social, emotional bubble, economical bubble. And it's nice to break that bubble. And it's nice to show, and even if the experience is just mediocre compared to what you've got at home, at least your child comes home and values more what they've got.
Yeah. Well, it's just different, right? So it's just broader. And I know, I wish I'd met you before my son went to Spain. You might have, come back slightly lighter. You may have had. Well, I've got one to come, so maybe we'll ping him your way sooner or later. And Mary, if someone wants to get hold of you, what's the best way for them to contact you at Native Experiences?
Internet. I've got a free consultation button. Look at my agenda and find something that fits. That's on tyexperience.com, or email info@mairi.com, or telephone and WhatsApp. And
that's Mairi for us non-Irish speakers, Mairi. Yeah, that's the one.
Scottish Gaelic. Anyway.
Scottish Gaelic. Well, I'm 3/4 Scottish. I should know that. Anyway, look, Mairi, it's been really lovely to talk to you, and I think it's a fascinating idea for children of all ages. And we've got parents of children from pre-prep all the way through to old folk like me, who I'm sure would love to learn more about what you do. So hopefully they'll see this, and we'll get some people to get in touch with you.
Yeah, great stuff.
All right, well, enjoy the hailstorm while I'm sure you'll have sunshine soon.
Thanks very much.
All right, Mary, nice to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.